Hello, I'm Gina Ganskop. I'm at the Penobscot Marine Museum and I'm the education director. And today I'm excited to share with you some information about life at sea and also to make a craft. We can make a thaumatrope. And if you can see, there is an image on one side and an image on the other. And when I spin it, the images combine. Okay, so many Searsport children went to sea with their families. Searsport and Penobscot Bay had many sea captains, and it was customary in the 19th century just to go ahead and go with your family. And it was definitely an interesting life for these kids. They traveled all around the world. They saw things all around the world. And one of, or several of them, wrote stories about life at sea. But I'm going to talk a little bit about Joanna and Lincoln Colcord because they wrote some parts about their life at sea. And so Joanna wrote, "We had from the beginning to accommodate ourselves to the routine of life at sea. We learned so early in life that I cannot remember a time when it was not completely accepted by us that we must never bother people who had duties to perform, except for 2 hours in the evening. Some of the officers who shared with us the after house were always off duty and trying to sleep, so we learned to play quietly. Even our dogs seemed to get the idea. In bad weather, Father had to snatch an hour or two of sleep whenever he could be spared from the deck, and we invented a system of grimaced signals by which we could play authors and such games in utter silence." They had to make up a whole bunch of different games and to play quietly. And so here's another example of what life was like for Joanna and Lincoln. "On our ship, we became quite ingenious in developing quiet games. With dominoes for ships, we would charter, load, and sail them on a chart spread on the cabin floor. Boys learned to splice and tie knots. Girls learned to sew and do fancy work, and both, as soon as they were old enough, learned from their fathers some of the processes of navigation. Regular lessons went on at sea. Our parents consulted with the teachers at home, and we learned and recited the same lessons from the same books. This was before the days of progressive education, as did our schoolmates at home. There was a ship's library in a yellow wooden case, changed each voyage by the American Seamen's Friend Society, and the family's own books and periodicals were swapped with other shipmasters' families in every port. Our family was fond of reading aloud, and many pleasant evenings passed with this and with cards, authors, and dominoes. I still have a folding table with the scores entered on the bottom of a cribbage tournament that was kept up for an entire voyage." So the reason that we're making thaumatropes today is they would be a nice little quiet toy for kids at sea. So this was a Victorian toy, so it's entirely possible that these kids did have thaumatropes. And you might have seen some different varieties of thaumatropes. You often will see a bird in a cage, or there's a couple other that are pretty popular. But we did our own special one that has on one side a sailboat right here, and on the other side we have a bottle. And so when it spins, the ship is in the bottle. And it looks like I can't actually post with the picture right now, but as soon as I get off of here, I will post the picture so that you can make your own. And when you see the picture, it will look somewhat like this, but you will have to print it first and then cut it out. So you'll need to print it, and then you'll need scissors, and you'll need a hole punch, or you can make do without the hole punch. It's not completely necessary. And glue is also a useful thing to have. So you would cut it out, but leave that place in the middle right there attached so that you don't lose the orientation of the bottle. And you will also have the option between having the one with the ship and having a blank one where you can draw your own. And you don't draw it in the ship, you would draw it right here, there's some lines. So you draw in between the lines is where you draw your own ship. And so you draw your ship if you choose to, or you could color the sailboat if you'd like to also. And then you want to cut it out, leaving that space right there in the middle. Fold it, makes a nice circle. And then you can glue on the inside and flatten it out, make sure it's all nice and tight. And then you hole punch the holes, one on either side. So you also need a couple pieces of string. And so the way I like to do it is, it doesn't have to be very long. It's only about that long. And then you can take the ends together and tie them just in a simple knot like that at the end. And then you can stick it through, to stick the looped end through the hole and loop it like that. And there you go. And then you will end up with your thaumatrope, with your image on one side and your bottle on the other. And when you turn it, the image goes in the bottle. And this is inspired by the children from Searsport and Penobscot Bay that went to sea with their families in the 19th century. And life was very different for them. One of the big things was they often had to keep quiet because on board ship, the crew took turns. Half of them would be on deck and half of them would be resting. So at almost any given time, half of the people would be sleeping. So kids that were at sea had to be very quiet. I will post the link or the image of the thaumatrope right after I get off live, and then you can print it and make one yourself. And I am Gina, and I'm the Education Director here at the Penobscot Marine Museum. We're learning how to do all of these really cool Facebook Live opportunities, and we will be with you on Wednesdays with a children's activity. On Fridays, we will be doing a peek into paintings and really exploring some of the cool paintings we have here at the Penobscot Marine Museum. And so we look forward to seeing more of you. And I'm going to go ahead and end it here. Thank you for joining us.